everyone. Welcome to Entertainment Weekly's What to Watch, the show where EW staff help you solve your viewing dilemmas. I'm your host, Gerrad Hall, and joining me today, because they prefer canned cranberry sauce over homemade because they're not monsters, are Rosy Cordero, Chancellor Agard, and Derek Lawrence. Happy early Thanksgiving, everyone. Happy to see you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Fans of filmmaker Steve McQueen have been anticipating the director's next big project since 2018's Widows. Well, this week, the wait is over, as viewers will be able to see the first of not one, but 5 new feature-length movies from the auteur. The films are part of the Amazon anthology series Small Axe, all of which are focused on London's West Indian community and feature actors such as Letitia Wright, John Boyega, Malachi Kirby, and many more. This week's feature is called Mangrove, about the 1970 protests of racially motivated police raids. Derek, what can viewers expect from this first installment?
This is, I would say the easy comparison would compare Mangrove to Trial of Chicago 7, which just came out as well, because it is, about this group of activists that are put on trial for inciting a riot at a protest. So it's, almost
familiar
the exact
territory.
same. Yeah. Exactly.
I love how we've gone from like 10-hour movies to now like TV shows that are just 1-hour films each.
Well, okay, that's the great debate here. So I mean, that's been a whole thing: are these films or is this an anthology series?
About to ask.
Yeah, I mean, Steve McQueen, like most filmmakers, prestige filmmakers, he wants these viewed as films.
Right.
He himself said,
and it did go out on the film festival circuit. It's worth
saying.
saying.
The first 3 films opened New York Film Festival. Obviously, it's a little different, this year. But he said it originally started as an anthology series. He's been working on this, way before Widows, before 12 Years a Slave, and he finally got to make it. And he said it just kept expanding in scope to the point that it was what he considers 5 movies.
All right, so you talked about these films being set in different time periods. We're talking about anywhere from the 60s to the 80s. But as you mentioned with Mangrove, it's still speaking to issues that are being faced today, very relevant. Do you have any insight into whether those specific stories were chosen because of that, because of the timeliness?
According to Steve McQueen, these are like very much British stories that have never been told. He felt like he wanted to tell, as he says, what was necessary, important, and urgent. And it just happened to be that they came out at this time where they felt even more necessary, important, and urgent. I talked to him a lot about, we see a lot of depictions of race in this kind of stuff in the U.S., but I would say maybe we're sheltered a bit more from like what happens around the rest of the world when it comes to race. So to his point, he felt like there would have never been a time when these weren't relevant. So it's just kind of coincidentally that they're coming out amid all of that.
All right, you guys, up next, put up your tray tables, fasten those seatbelts, and get ready for murder. HBO Max's new show, The Flight Attendant, stars Kaylee Cuoco as the titular face of the Friendly Skies, who in the first episode wakes up in Bangkok next to a dead body. We've all been there. Things only get more intense from there as her character must deal with the FBI, Russian spies, and her suspicious coworkers. Chance, this show has quite the takeoff. Do you think it sticks the landing, or is this going to go down like a bag of peanuts and tiny can of ginger ale?
After the first episodes, I'm really into it. Coming into it, I had no idea what to expect. I mean, I was already sold on the show just because, like, as someone here who tries to watch as much as Berlanti puts out, I already knew I was going to tune in. And so I was pleasantly surprised by what this show ended up being, because I think it stands out from what he's done already, and also stands out from what Kaylee Cuoco has done as well, which has been really cool. And the show's like a weird, I will say the show's a weird release schedule. It's like 3 and then 2 and then 2 and then 2 and then 1. I don't know. Yeah. Doesn't make sense. But I think the first episodes do the job of getting me hooked.
I think Kaylee's kind of operating at a very different level than what people are used to from The Big Bang Theory. She's in this very paranoid, heightened state of panic and desperation. Very different from what people are going to expect from her, don't you think?
What's interesting with this role is I think she brings some of the energy of The Big Bang Theory, so the sort of her sort of the energetic, the sort of fast talking. That's very much a part of the show, but this is also radically different than Penny on The Big Bang Theory, and it's really cool to see her in this sort of dramatic role while also keeping sort of the things that made her such a good comedic actress.
So on the topic of Greg Berlanti, of course responsible for Arrowverse and so many other shows, do you think though his touch here is apparent, and will the Flash come in to save the day?
First question, I'm sorry, your second question, no, unfortunately. God, imagine. Actually, do not, because I do not have time for the crossover. This show may be the most unlike anything he's done. Like Riverdale, like something like Riverdale falls like very much in, like, feels like not an actor, but like a descendant of some of his like teen dramas he worked on, just wilder. But this definitely feels unlike anything else he has going on at the moment, which is really cool to see him sort of expanding his palette, even though it's still insane how many shows his company's capable of producing, just out of their like tiny building on like the WB lot.
All right, you guys, we need to take a quick break, but it's all right because we're Saved by the Bell when we return. Next week, 90s TV lovers can take a trip back to high school. Bayside High School, that's right, a revival of the beloved sitcom Saved by the Bell is coming to Peacock. It might not have the bright patterned shirts and super high-waisted acid wash jeans we came to know and love, but it does have most of the original cast and a group of promising young stars. All right, so Rosie, tell me, how excited are you about this revival? So excited, or so scared?
So scared. So scared. No, so excited. I'm so excited for this to come out. This is the most diverse cast that they've ever had. It has all the funny moments from the original, but also it tackles a lot of important topics. And I wouldn't go so far as to say that what's old won't be coming back, because I can confirm that the brick phone is back.
All right, so Rosie, let's break down some of these elements. What ingredients of the original series make their way back to the revival? The Max, breaking the fourth wall, Mario Lopez's abs, like what can everyone expect?
Well, all of that. You can expect all of that, especially Mario Lopez is back as AC Slater. He's the gym coach and the football coach. So we're going to get to see a lot of him, although people might be surprised to learn that he's a longtime bachelor. And I mean, at least he'll be reconnecting with Jesse, but we don't know what's going to happen there yet. A lot of the returning cast will be coming back together. And the most important part is that they have reimagined a lot of the original storylines for today, and they're just so funny.
There are a lot of classic episodes, a lot of standout episodes. You also talked to them about some of those originals, like the Jesse, I'm so excited, and there was the big fight between AC Slater and Zach Morris, who we should mention, by the way, is now the governor of California. That's how this whole thing starts. So tell me more about those storylines and how they're also, of course, incorporating more topical issues.
Well, a lot of those storylines do come back. This time it's Jesse who is knocking down the bottle of caffeine pills off of a student's hands. So they're having a lot of fun replaying these moments in totally different situations. Mario Lopez's storyline with Mark Paul Gosselaar, so Zach and AC were fighting for the same girl back in the day, and now it's Jesse's son and his best friend, who is Mark Paul Gosselaar's son on the show. And they're fighting for the same girl.
Social commentary wasn't really something that was prominently featured on the original series, but the revival, like we've said, it's definitely not shying away about those topics, privilege among those. Do you think the social commentary works in the context of a show, of a sitcom like Saved by the Bell, or does it feel out of place? Do you think they're forcing it in any way?
It absolutely blends in perfectly, because it's still the same silly Saved by the Bell that we grew up knowing and loving, but it weaves in these social topics that are important to address, and they do it again, in a very Saved by the Bell way, where it's not sticking out like, hey, we're preaching these things at you, but it really blends in perfectly. And I think that people are going to appreciate that a show as important as Saved by the Bell is tackling a lot of these topics.
All right, guys, before we go, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, what GOAT holiday episode would you recommend to our viewers? Derek?
I'd probably go with the appropriately titled Thanksgiving in Master of None Season 2. It's a personal story for Lena Waithe that's essentially kind of mirroring her own coming out story to her mother. You have the great Angela Bassett filling that role for Lena here. So, I mean, you can't beat having her over for Thanksgiving.
Chance?
First thing that comes to mind, I guess, for me, and just because I'm watching it for something else, is the Christmas episode of Justice League, Comfort and Joy. It's for the Justice League animated show, sort of watching how various members of the team celebrate Christmas. I can't think of any Thanksgiving episodes.
Rosie, you have a favorite holiday episode of a show?
I'm going to be grandma and say Charlie Brown, because there's no holiday for me without Charlie Brown. But a close second is the Garfield episode where it's Thanksgiving and he wants to have lasagna for Thanksgiving, and I support that.
All right, you guys, that is our show. We'll be off next week, so we'll see you guys in December. But until then, thanks to my guests, Chancellor Agard, Rosy Cordero, and Derek Lawrence. See you next month on What to Watch.